Hey, Rory.
Hey Laura,
Hi, how are you?
good. How are you? I just left my session with Sydney, our college student, sharing about how she uses Quizlet, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful session. So I'm happy to jump in here. This is a session I told us guys, everyone here this morning, that if there's something that's been, in your brain, you feel like it just didn't really get answered yesterday or in any of the sessions this morning, or if you weren't able to join all the sessions and something's been on your mind, that this is a session definitely to ask. I feel like I can speak to all of the in-class teacher, things, and Laura is straight from Quizlet, so she can answer all the behind the scenes or what's kind of coming in or what we're looking for. So yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. I'm excited too. So maybe I know, Rory, folks who have been at the Unconference have been seeing your face as our fearless host for the last 2 days. But maybe I'll introduce myself quickly so people know who I am, and then we can kind of dive in. My name is Laura Oppenheimer. I'm a product manager here at Quizlet. If I look familiar, it's because I've been around in the Unconference world since the beginning. I think I organized the first one in 2016. So hopefully, for those who are longtime Quizlet users, you're not sick of me yet. And for those of you who are new to Quizlet, so excited to help you get the most out of this amazing platform. And with that, I can see there's already a bunch of questions in here. Maybe we can
Want to go back and forth?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the first one, which is, can Quizlet be connected with Google Classroom? And do students have to have their own Quizlet accounts? Great question. Quizlet can be connected to Google Classroom, and you do this in the classes part of Quizlet. Let me see. Let me see if I can just show a screen share. I myself am not. Can you all see my screen? Roy, can you see? Okay. Cool. So here's my class. I believe if I go to add members, there's a link right here that says invite by linking Google Classroom. And once I click this, it'll walk me through a flow where I can connect my Quizlet class to my Google Classroom. From there, once I start creating content on Quizlet, I'll have an option to share it to Google Classroom as I believe a post or an assignment. And your students can just click and access it there. So that's a great way to get your students like a one-click way to access your Quizlet content. In terms of whether your students need to be signed up or not, they don't necessarily need to be signed up to use Quizlet, but we do think it's a better and richer experience if they do sign up. And that's because we can like store their study data and sort of get them into the next best question for what they're learning. So they'll see prompts to sign up, but particularly if they're using flashcards, they don't need to sign up.
Yeah. I'm going to answer two questions back to back from Kylie. She asked, if you remove a set from an old class, does it delete the set from your saved sets? No. So let's say you were in a class and you were kind of cleaning up the class. Like I actually reuse my classes from year to year. I just delete all the students. So all of my algebra classes and geometry classes that I have from last year, I just go and I take away all their names. And let's say there's a set in there that I want to get rid of. I can remove it from the class, but it's still in my main profile page. So it's not going to get rid of that way. And then the next question from Kylie was, can you alphabetize your sets? So on your main profile page, when you have all of your sets there, and there's 3 different ways to sort it. If you sort it by created on your main profile page, it's going to alphabetize them for you. When you have students in a class, there's a drop down to put them in alphabetical order. So on the main profile page, it's sorting by created, and then in your class, it's alphabetized. And I always want my students to look at it alphabetized because then it's so easy to find certain sets. So I love that for sure.
Awesome. I see a couple of questions about learn and test and free and paid. So I'm going to answer that. So the questions are, Derek asks, I have a free account. Can my students and classes still have unlimited access to learn and test? And Matthew asks, For clarification, if you put a set in a class for students, they get free rounds of learning tests no matter if teachers have the paid or free account. And the answer to that is yes. So if you are a teacher on Quizlet and you create a class, and maybe I'll even just sort of do another screen share because I think sometimes it's helpful to see how to do this. So bear with me. We're going to go back to Quizlet. So here's my class, Spanish 2, period 2. I'm going to add maybe a new set. See if I have another good Spanish. Let's see what this one is. Okay, I'm going to add this set. So once I do that, you can see that this set is in my class. And any student, so here are all the members of my class. All of these students that you see here will be able to access this set that I just added, and they will be able to use tests and learn. And this doesn't have anything to do with me being a paid teacher or a free teacher. It's just about the class. So in a way, the way I think about it is like the class membership is the permissions to access the content and the modes together. And I'll stop sharing here. We go to the next question.
Debbie asked, would you mind highlighting the features in Quizlet Teacher Plus so they, I'm sorry, ooh, I just lost Debbie. In Quizlet Teacher Plus. So I started with a free account. I used the free account for my first year, and then I made the plunge and I did the pro account. So I use the Quizlet Teacher Plus version. So I find that there's benefits. There's no ads on the screen. There's no ads on the screen on my end. So, you know, it kind of visually is more appealing. When students are playing Quizlet Live, they have the option to choose their own team. So sometimes I really like that. I like for the students to, if they're already sitting at tables, I'll be like, okay, all of you guys, and they just put in a number. So Olive for one table puts in a 1, they're in group 1, group 2. With Quizlet Live, with the free account, it's just random and shuffled. Another thing is with the paid account, you can put in images. So I like to put in diagrams or graphs or things like that. I'm a math teacher. The other thing is that you can, in your study sets, make things in bold or underline or italicize or highlighted. And those would be some of the features. I think there's a couple of more. Those are just the things that I know I use. So that's what I'm speaking to. But you can definitely, I always suggest to my friends that are new Quizlet users, use the free account until you feel like you've played around with everything. And then when you feel like you want more, then that would be the time to say, hey, I'm gonna dabble in this, given those extra features.
Yeah, and I'll also note that the Quizlet teacher subscription comes with, I believe, a 30-day free trial. So if you're curious about it, you can upgrade, see what it's all about, see if it works for you, and then you can always downgrade just within those first 30 days. So,
and I think that's better than what I had originally. I think I had like a 2-week trial or 3 weeks or something. So,
I see a question. I see a couple of questions about set creation. So Anonymous asked, I would like more information on making charts and diagrams. And Jane asked, can you change the font and font size for the sets you create? So maybe I'll just do a little bit of walking through set creation and some things to know about there. Maybe some like secret kind of fun pro tips for those who want set creation, I don't say behind the scenes, but like power user stuff. Okay, I'm gonna answer this and this. I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen and okay. So this is me. I am currently a paid Quizlet user here. You can tell I'm a paid Quizlet user because I have this button that says 2 days to renew, which means that I probably upgraded 363 days ago or 62 days ago. But if I go to create and then study set, a few things to know here. So I can enter a name. I'm going to call this Spanish animals. And I can enter a description here. Sometimes I've seen teachers enter descriptions that are like, study this set for the quiz on Friday, if it's something you're creating right away. Otherwise, you know, it can just be like Spanish, like, you know, practice or our unit. Okay. Other good things to know, you can change who can access this. So you can make it visible to certain classes. Remember, we are just in Spanish class. That's great. You can make it editable by just people in classes, people with password, just me. I saw a question from someone who talked about team teaching or co-teaching. So that can be a really good option here to say, oops, you know, create a password and send that to your co-teacher so you can work on this together. But I'll just do this. And okay, someone asked about diagrams. Diagrams are a Quizlet Plus feature, but you can basically, we'll see, I don't have, see if I can find a good photo. I'm gonna do this one. This is for my animal set. So here's the dog. And you can add things like face love. Or let's say,
I need to do this for sure.
I don't know. My Spanish is bad. I'm not actually sure what the definition I would add here. I guess it'd just be like head. Or there's like an arable tree. So this is how you can create diagrams, and then they'll show up down here, which is pretty nice. In terms of some of these other features, we talked about gato, which is cat. Someone asked about bolding. You can add bolding. You can't change the font size. So I know that was a specific question, but you can do bolding and underlining, etc. And an additional Quizlet Plus feature is, let me see, okay. There's a bunch of cute cat photos that are already here, but maybe I have a special cat that I like. So I'll add this one. She's very cute. And then I can create my set. And now you have a little diagram. And you can see the terms and other things show up here too. So a little overview of some things going on in set creation world, and also some premium features.
Awesome. So Gary asked, can I connect Quizlet to Microsoft Teams? So I use Microsoft Teams. That's what our school platform is. So I actually want to show you what it looks like, because I think it looks amazing. Like I could cry. It looks so cool. So this is what my Microsoft Teams looks like. It's a desktop app. If you're Google Classroom, it's more of a web, I believe it's web based, but for Microsoft Teams, we're in this. And so this is what my just general kind of page looks like in Microsoft Teams. And what I did at the top is I embedded Quizlet right in my Microsoft Teams. So when my class period B8 goes into Teams, they can click on, you know, our stuff. This is where I'm like putting in assignments. But if they click on Quizlet while they're in Microsoft Teams, I have it programmed right to come up to my Quizlet page, and they can go right into it. And so they have immediate access, which is so cool. It's just very, very cool to do that. To be able to embed it, you just click on the plus sign, and then you'll see when you want to add a tab, Quizlet is one of the options. I would just search for it at the top, go to Quizlet. Oh, you know what I did? I'm sorry. I put it in as a website. My apologies. So we're this option here in like the hot ping to add a website in, if I just click on website and then I can put in my URL and then you can name it whatever you want at the top, then it's going to be right there. So integrating into Microsoft Teams is like a dream, basically. It's just beautiful for that. I'm obsessed.
I love it. All right. I want to answer kind of a sensitive question from Robert. He says, I have a paid account. Is there a way to prevent double tabs of Quizlet to prevent cheating? And I feel like this is like a hot topic, so I'm just going to dive in. One of the things I always like to remind teachers about Quizlet is that we are not a walled garden. That's a phrase we use in tech, which is like, we're not like a lockdown space. We're just part of the internet. We're a website. And so what that means is we highly encourage you to use Quizlet for formative assessment and practice, but do not recommend using Quizlet for summative assessment. So, and that's exactly for the reason that Robert asked, which is like, oh, well, if I just, you know, can't they just go to another tab and look at something? It's like, they absolutely can. So when you're thinking about integrating Quizlet into homework or practice or review, I would just encourage you to focus on using it for formatives and for practice and not for graded activities. Because like many things on the internet, like you can just find whatever you want. This is not, I don't think, a Quizlet feature or a Quizlet problem in particular. It's sort of like a internet issue, which is like most things in a textbook, for example, right now can be Googled and found on sites. If you have a math problem, you can put it into Wolfram Alpha. Like these are not bad things. It's just sort of the nature of how the internet works today. So definitely when you think about like, great, how do I want to integrate Quizlet into my teaching? Encourage practice, review, formative, or like homework that's done as like a check, like check you did it, as opposed to a graded % complete. So if other folks in the chat have ideas on how they use Quizlet and they want to share that, I'd love to hear how others use it and sort of live in this world where content is available online. But that's how we tend to recommend. And if you are a teacher who has class progress, which is part of the Quizlet Plus for Teachers subscription, you'll see a line that's like, please use this for practice and not for, formal summative assessments.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I would never be using Quizlet as a grade or anything like that for sure. I'm going to answer 2 questions right now. Sophia asked, can I edit a title of a study set I already created? You totally can. So what you want to do is you want to click into that study set that you created. I always strongly suggest naming them very well, naming them possibly with a lesson number in them so it's easy for students to find, or putting really specific keywords in there, not abbreviating anything so students can find it easily in your class. But what you want to do is you want to open up the set, you want to go to the title and change it, and then you do need to click like create, because it's going to create that set with that new title. So that just might be a step that if you were trying it out, maybe you were missing it. And then Debbie had asked, do the students need to create their own account before they join your account using your link? That's what I have my students do. If your students are Google Classroom users, they can integrate right with their Google account. I have my students go to Quizlet.com and create their student account using their Microsoft emails on like the first or second day of school. I already have my classes created, so I always make my 5 classes ready to go. And then I encourage my students, I either drop a link into Microsoft Teams and say, you're going to click this link and you're going to request to join my class, or you can drop a link into your Quizlet profile page. And then at the top, they would click classes and they would find which class they're in. That may be a little bit more steps for the students. So probably just having them create the account and then dropping in the link for your class would be the most efficient way to do that.
Excellent. All right. I want to make sure, I think it's her or his name is pronounced Elaine, but Elaine asks, with respect to custom distractors, is there an interface template for uploading study sets from a spreadsheet, like some of the game sites? And I'm going to walk you through how to do this. So I actually think this is like a great feature that's kind of hidden. Okay. Share my screen again.
Oh, good. Sophia said she did it. She changed her title. Yes, Sophia. Good.
Okay. So, all right, I did a little pre-prep here. I have this vocab list right here. I'm going to keep going with the Spanish theme. So this is just in a Google sheet. It's a bunch of irregular verbs, big set. And if I go to create and study set again, you'll see this option here, this link. It says import from Word, Excel, Google Docs, etc. So what you can do is just, and I believe this will work, just copy and, oh, there it is, paste it in. Okay. So, depending on if you have like a CSV or you're just copying from a spreadsheet, there's some different options here, but it'll just load it all up for you, which is pretty amazing. And then you can import it. So this brought it into the create set flow. So we'll just call this my irregular verbs. Okay. And then the question was about multiple choice custom distractors. That piece, you cannot import through the spreadsheet, but you can do it manually here. And this is a Quizlet Plus for teachers. So you could, make up some distractors you want to use. And we all know the value of a multiple choice question is in the value of the distractor. So here, added a bunch of different options. And then, oops, I need to change. Oh, okay, let's do this. This is Spanish. And this is English. Let's see if that works. Cool. Oh, and there's share in Google Classroom, share in Remind, share on MS Teams. So the thing to know, and so with those multiple choice distractors, I think here you can see they're here. In test mode, if you do this, your multiple choice distractors, your custom distractors will show up in test mode, in learn mode, and in checkpoint. So you can really sort of customize the experience for your students.
All right, I've been scrolling through a bit about changing a student's username. Laura, I don't believe a student can change their username after they've made it, can they?
They can, I believe. Okay, here's what I believe to be true, and I will ask for verification from our user ops team. Okay, here's how it works. I'm just gonna keep going back and forth to my account. So if you ask your students to click on their icon right here and go to settings, you scroll down. Okay, on this page, it says you can change your username only once. And I believe this is kind of to like protect against students doing some kind of like shenanigans thing where like, maybe I might like change my username to Rory, and then Rory might be like, why is there two, who's pretending to be me? Like, students aren't always on the up and up. So you can ask your students, go here, enter their password, and then once they press continue, they'll have an option to change their username. So maybe for, those of you who are teaching high school and you have students who are like, in middle school, this is my username and now I don't want that username. This is the flow they should go through.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Catherine.
Were you going to read this? Would you please go over Quizlet Live?
Yeah, do you want to do this, Rory, since you're a Quizlet Live expert?
Oh, please. So I've been using Quizlet Live for 5 years. Love every moment of Quizlet Live. There was a session earlier yesterday about Quizlet Live, so that'll definitely be in the Zoom account for you to watch, really detailing how it goes. Quizlet Live brings that Quizlet study set to life. So, if you're in the classroom and you've never used Quizlet Live before, you may want to grab a couple teacher friends, maybe 3 or 4 teacher friends, and go into that Quizlet study set, click live, and there's going to be a code that comes up on the screen, and maybe ask your teacher friends to kind of enter in that code for you so that you can kind of see it in action before you actually do it with your students if you're nervous or anything like that. And basically what happens with Quizlet Live is that the Quizlet study set gets broken up into a random set of 12 questions, and someone else had asked about the 12 questions. So Quizlet will take a random 12 questions and will, in each group that's playing in Quizlet Live, maybe there's like 2 or 3 groups, or I could have 10 groups in my room. Each group maybe has like 3 or 4 students in them. Every group in that group, has the same question on their screen from the Quizlet study set, and they have 3 or 4 multiple choice answers. But the kick is only one person in that entire group actually has the correct answer on their screen. So the students have to actively work together as a group to say, hey, I'm thinking the answer might be 7. I don't have that 7 on my screen. And someone else might say, you know what though? I have 7 on my screen, but I think the answer is actually 6. And so it forces them to engage in this kind of conversation. And it's thrilling because the results of Quizlet Live, you would project them on your screen. And it kind of is one of those, I always think about those boardwalk games when you shoot the water gun into the mouth or the balloon, you're trying to make it pop and the little cars are going across the screen or whatever, across the board. You see the progress in action. And the game is the first group to answer 12 correct questions correctly without any mistakes first is the winner. And if they make a mistake, they go back to the start. And so kind of everyone constantly has this chance to potentially win. I like to play it with my full class kind of participating in it. Sometimes to really make things super challenging, we'll play a silent version of it so they can't talk with their group, which kind of defeats the point of Quizlet Live, but it also makes it where every kid has this own sense of pressure. Like I'm with this group of 3 kids. I don't think the answer's on my screen, but no one's clicking anything. Like maybe I do have it. It makes it a little bit more intense. They wouldn't have to even sit with their group to be able to do that. Some teachers do like a round robin thing where the kids are circulating around the laptops trying to find the answer. There's so many different ways, but and then like I said, it groups 12 questions. So let's say you went through a Quizlet Live round, you had a great time, it's over, you give air high fives to the winning team, and then you can play Quizlet Live again. And when you go to play it again, it's going to grab another random set of 12 questions. So sometimes Quizlet Live sessions can go really quickly. Like sometimes we can be done in just a couple minutes, but I could play that 5 rounds of, let's say, 10 minutes worth of time, and my students have cycled through a bunch of questions. So if a study set has 80 questions, they've most likely seen about 60 of those problems. There could be some overlap from session to session, but it usually goes over pretty well. It's exciting. I love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could also play around a Quizlet Live with individuals if people want to see it in practice and see what things feel like from the student side. What do you think, Rory? Is that useful, or should we move on?
We only have a few minutes left.
Okay.
Maybe you want to grab, I don't know.
All right. Well, okay. Let's see. We have Debbie asks, if students create their account with their school email, what happens after they graduate? Will they still be able to use it for college since that email will no longer work? So every Quizlet account is an email. You need an email and a username and a password to sign up. So, sometimes what we see is students will change their email when they graduate and they can still sign in with their password. Or sometimes we see them create a new account with their new email address. I think that's probably like a little more typical, which is they're like moving on, they have a new email address, they don't need all their old high school content. But the good news is that because Quizlet's free, it's not a huge deal, I think, for students to move on and create a new account. And typically what we see is like, while you all as teachers have content that's like super evergreen and you use it year after year or for class after class, oftentimes with students, like the stuff they're studying has a relatively short shelf life in their own lives. So they might study something for a test or a unit or a semester, but they don't necessarily go back to that content year after year after year. Once they've like moved on from Spanish 2 and they're in Spanish 3, they're like only focused on Spanish 3. Or once they move on from like world history to US history, they're not looking at the world history stuff anymore. So that's usually what we see. I think it's probably more typical for students to leave their like middle or high school account behind and create a new account when they start a new school or a new chapter in their lives, but they also totally can keep using the same account. So
Tina asked which session went over Quizlet Live. So it was one of the sessions from yesterday. I think Maureen did it, but it was definitely in one of Tuesday's sessions. So that will definitely be on the Zoom events for you to watch and take a look at. It's Quizlet Live is so much fun. Yolanda asked, as a math teacher, how do you use Quizlet, warm-up, guided practice, etc.? It does depend on the concept. Usually I will do a lesson. I might have a practice activity that we do, and then I'll say, okay, we're going to do a round of Quizlet Live. Something you can also do is if you want to play the game of Quizlet Live, but you want students to feel a little bit more warmed up, like let's say you taught a lesson and you want to play Quizlet Live, but you feel like they're not ready for competition level just yet. I mean, you just taught them the information. You might want to direct them to go to that Quizlet study set. I've done this so many times, and say, okay, everyone's going to take 5 minutes. I want you to go to this Quizlet study set. I want you to practice in whatever mode you want. Maybe go to learn, take 5 minutes and go through this set and get some practice in, try to get a few problems done. And then after 5 minutes, we're going to go to Quizlet Live. And that's actually been an amazing segue, because if I have some students that I know are a little nervous or kind of hesitant and don't want to join live, I might go over to them and say, it's okay if you don't want to join live, or if you want to keep practicing, go for it. Or, hey, anyone that wants to join me on live, you feel good about it, go ahead, put this code in, go to Quizlet.live, enter in this code in, and now I've differentiated in my class immediately, where everyone was in learn doing practice about the skill I just taught them. And some of them that want to feel engaged in the activity for Quizlet Live can come join me. And anyone who wants to just keep practicing in that safety net in their own space certainly can. So that's been always a good tip, I would suggest for sure.
And yeah, Rory, I feel like you could teach a master class on how to use Quizlet with math, which I know is like is like a little bit different than when you're using it for like vocabulary or facts. But I love the way that you've figured out how to create these engaging experiences for your students using Quizlet.
Thank you.
Are we at time? Is this it?
Yeah, we are at time. We're going to be heading over in about 15 minutes. You guys, we have our keynote today with Michael Bonner at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. So we are going to head over there. This would be a great time. Go grab a snack, bathroom break, grab a water. I'm so excited to be inspired. If you were there yesterday for Ingrid's keynote, I know you're going to feel just as inspired today with Michael. So that will be wonderful. And that's happening in about 15 minutes. Laura, great session.
Thanks so much, Rory. I can't wait for the keynote, and I hope this has been helpful. I also just want to give a quick plug. We have an amazing help center. So many of the questions that we didn't get to, you can find answers in the help center, or you can always just shoot us a note. We have a great team who works around the clock to answer questions from teachers like you. So please don't be strangers. We're here to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.